Before Christmas became something you could stream, search, or add to a cart, it was something you waited for. You waited for the catalog to arrive. You waited for a favorite holiday special to appear at its scheduled time. You waited outside a closed living room door on Christmas morning, listening for the one sound that meant it was finally time. Not every family celebrated in the same way, and not every home looked like the ones in old photographs. But for many American families, Christmas had its own slow rhythm, built from small rituals that returned once a year. Here are 10 of the moments that made it feel so different. 10. The Wish Book on the coffee table. In the fall, the Sears Wish Book arrived and immediately became the most important reading material in the house. Children sat on the carpet turning page after page. Dolls, bicycles, board games, toy kitchens, action figures, and anything else that might possibly make it under the tree. The page could be dog-eared, circled, or quietly left open on the kitchen table as a very obvious hint. For a child, it was not simply a catalog. It was a whole season of daydreaming in paper form. And when the catalog was finally put aside, there was usually something else to wait for. The Christmas show everyone knew was coming. By the mid-1970s, those pages had a very specific look. The 1974 Sears Christmas Wish Book offered Hasbro's G.I. Joe Adventure Team set Recovery of the Lost Mummy, a Sears exclusive that combined a playset with a helicopter in one oversized box, while another page showed Barbie's Carousel Kitchen. A year later, Kenner's $6 Million Man figures were everywhere, the kind of toy that sold out in stores and still showed up in the catalog for the child who had missed it. By 1978, after Star Wars had changed the toy aisle overnight, Sears carried Kenner's Cantina Adventure Set, the exclusive that included the rare tall blue snaggletooth. Fashion plates sat nearby for kids who wanted to design outfits instead of battles. A colored pencil did not care which page it landed on. It only mattered that someone at the kitchen table would eventually see the circle. The Wish Book itself usually arrived in August or September, long before the first Christmas special, which is why it felt like the season's true starting gun. 9 holiday specials at a set time. There was no streaming queue and no way to watch it whenever you felt like it. If Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, A Charlie Brown Christmas, or How the Grinch Stole Christmas was airing that night, you had to be in front of the television when it began. Miss it, and you might be waiting until next December. That made the living room feel different. Dinner was finished early, pajamas came out, someone adjusted the antenna, and for 1 hour, the family watched the same story together because the schedule said this was the moment. The listings were printed in the newspaper, not buried in an app. A Charlie Brown Christmas had returned to CBS every December since its 1965 premiere. Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, first shown on NBC in 1964, became another yearly appointment. How the Grinch Stole Christmas arrived on CBS on December 18, 1966, and came back each winter after that. If the special started at 8, dinner ended at 7:30. Someone checked the antenna, someone else called from the kitchen. It was starting. 8. The tree that transformed the room. Some families brought home a real tree, tied to the roof of the car and shedding needles before it even reached the living room. Others still had aluminum trees, a space-age holdover from the 1960s, lit from the outside by a rotating color wheel. Red, blue, green, and amber moved across the silver branches, making the tree look less like something from the forest and more like something from the future. But whether the tree was real, artificial, silver, green, tall, crooked, or missing a few branches, it was usually not finished when it first went up. The decorating came next. 7. Decorations made by hand paper chains, salt dough ornaments, popcorn strung on thread, cranberries that left red marks on little fingers. In many homes, decorating was not about making the tree look perfect. It was about giving everyone something to add. A child's crooked ornament might hang right next to a glass bauble that had survived 10 Christmases. The finished tree told a story. It showed what the family had made, saved, repaired, and brought out again. And then came the lights. 6. Bubble lights and hot bulbs. Christmas lights in the 1970s were not always the tiny, cool LED strands people know today. Some homes used larger colored bulbs that warmed up quickly. Others had bubble lights, small liquid-filled tubes that began to bubble as the heat rose from the base. Kids could watch them for what felt like forever. They were beautiful, but they were also fragile. Old decorations required more care than people sometimes remember, especially around curious children, dry trees, and crowded outlets. Still, when the room lights went off and the tree lights came on, the whole house seemed to change. 5. Getting dressed for Christmas Eve. For some families, Christmas Eve meant church. Children pulled on uncomfortable shoes, scratchy dresses, clip-on ties, or a coat that never seemed warm enough. At midnight mass or an earlier candlelight service, familiar songs filled the church, and sleepy children leaned against their parents in the pews. Not every family went, but for those who did, it created a strange, wonderful feeling, staying up late on purpose, knowing Christmas morning was getting closer by the minute. 4. The rule about Christmas morning. Every house seemed to have one. Maybe the children were not allowed downstairs until 6 o'clock. Maybe they had to wait until both parents were awake. Maybe everyone lined up on the staircase before anybody was allowed to enter the living room. The rule was painful, of course. Children had been awake for hours, but it also stretched the excitement into something almost unbearable. Then the door opened. 3. Wrapping paper everywhere. Once the waiting ended, the room changed in minutes. Paper ripped. Ribbon landed under chairs. A bow stuck to someone's sleeve. A parent tried to save the good wrapping paper, while children cared about only one thing: what was inside. By mid-morning, the living room floor looked as though a small blizzard had passed through. But right in the middle of all that paper was usually one gift everyone had been waiting to see. 2. The one unforgettable present Christmas did not always mean piles of presents. For plenty of children, one major gift carried the whole morning. A bicycle, a dollhouse, a record player, a train set, a football tucked under an arm, maybe a new board game that had to be played immediately, even before breakfast was finished. The point was not how many gifts there were. It was the feeling of seeing the one thing you had hoped for all season suddenly sitting under the tree. And after the excitement settled down, there was one more ritual waiting. 1. The call to Grandma. The telephone sat in one place, attached to the wall by a cord, and when it was time to call relatives, everyone had to take a turn. Long-distance calls were expensive, but on Christmas Day, the cost didn't matter. You stood in the hallway, cord stretched to its limit, waiting to hear a voice from 3 state lines away. "Merry Christmas, Grandma." And when the receiver finally settled back onto the wall cradle, Christmas was officially